a little bit of myofascial release to create a little bit more suppleness in the hamstring muscle. Sitting down on a high chair, if you have one, or a worktop, or a low stool, whatever comes, placing a hard ball underneath your hamstring, kneading it around a little bit and applying light but continuous pressure for a period of time until you notice it relax and die down a little bit before moving to another spot and trying again a number of times until you're happy. Here I'm just moving onto the outside of my hamstring nearer the IT band at the lower point of it nearer the knee, and just kind of applying a little bit of pressure and just moving around to soften it out a little. But this is just different areas that I notice and that you can have a little bit of a play around with too. Here I've placed the ball right up to the top of the hamstring near the glute muscle, and I'm just sitting on it very gently, but if there's any tenderness there you'll notice it, and you can move your backside around on it using your hands to push you up, and also then just sit gently down onto it to create the pressure and stay stationary, allowing it to become soft as you breathe calmly. This is our hamstring spiral stretch, using the aid of a band around the foot and pulling it up as a little bit of a light lever, then turning the thigh, seeing the foot turn clockwise and anti-clockwise. As the thigh twists in the socket, you'll notice the hamstrings feel nice, and doing it up to 10 to 20 times each direction, gently, and then laying it down, creating a little bit of tension through the band as you reach the leg away, and then keeping the tension in the band as you lift the leg up, and then continue 10, 20 total, 5, 10 each side. Directions of clockwise and anti-clockwise moving from the thigh. This is a similar stretch for your hamstrings to the one with the band previous, but it's done in a seated position and rocking the thigh clockwise to anti-clockwise so that you stay on the heel, but you can see the foot is turning left to right, pivoting on its heel and rotating from the thigh and the hip. Do 5 to 10 again each side, and you can gently switch over and do 1 to 3 each time. This is a good hip mobility exercise to concentrate on one leg at a time, moving from its hip, trying to keep the lower back nice and still from bending all over the place, and resisting the urge to turn the hips too much, but there will be a little resulting turn as you lift the knee up, turn it out to the side as shown, and then bring it down to the side of the other leg, holding that hip extension and not leaning forwards with your head and shoulders and back to compensate for the resistance that you feel down in the legs and hips. Nice and smooth. This exercise is a nice drill for those hip dominant movements that we're really trying to drive from when we're running, using our legs, and then doing some total body exercise routines like squats, deadlifts and lunges. So we're using those hips as a real dominant hinge, and the knees are only being used to allow that swing back, as you can see, and I'm getting all the hip hinge from the tip over of my spine from the hips. So there's no bending at the waist, keeping my shoulders open at the chest so they feel square and a little under tension across the collarbones. Only to the knee line. This exercise really takes us into spinal stability and the use of our frontline muscles, the abdomen, the oblique system and our ribs, chest, as our main drive over, with the arms back and forward and the legs back and forward. We're trying to keep two limbs stationary as two limbs move away coordinatively and in sync with each other, keeping the lumbar nice and neutrally flat on the floor with the pelvis rocked back onto the floor, so you get a nice tension through the abdomen wall and obliques around the waist, and the movement of the arm and the leg from the shoulder and hip socket should not be too easy and loose, and it should all be nicely resistant. Breathing in on the way back and out, and breathing out on the way forwards and in. A squat with your feet pretty wide so you can feel the inner thighs, and then you're going to squeeze the toes down on the floor and load the heels on the way down with your hips, and press the heels on the way up with your hips. Stepping back once in a reverse lunge, you're going to go up and down this new center of gravity, bending at both knees, pressing the floor down with your toes of the front foot. You're going to load your front heel as you bend both knees, lowering the body and hips, and then you're going to keep the toes squeezing the floor of the front foot as you press the heel of the front foot down on the way up. Trying not to push forwards until you're ready to finish and step towards the front leg as shown before changing over. Using the arms in this way with them in a running style gives you a nice relationship with the upper and lower body.